Do you want to be just another hotel and car and attraction or television or blender? People are getting these product-based messages all the day. It's actually beating them down. People are actually turning away from traditional advertising because they just can't stand the noise anymore. And as a result, when you offer up what everybody else is offering up in the tourism industry, what do you get? Well, you get, in economics, they call it perfect competition. But in fact, perfect competition isn't so perfect because you can only compete on one thing when you're competing in a perfectly competitive market. And that one thing is price. And what do you think happens? Your margins go away, right? So wouldn't it be nice to get out of that perfect competition and get into a scenario where you can charge more money, earn higher margins, and end up with a more satisfied guest? And that is what an experience does. An experience doesn't just sell you a dinner cruise or a boat cruise. It says, I'm going to put you on a cruise. I'm going to expose you to the sea captain, and he's going to tell you some stories about the local waters and the people that live there. I'm going to introduce you to my crew, and they're going to tell you their fishing stories. And you know what? They're going to be politically incorrect, and they're going to tell bad jokes. And you're going to love every single minute of it because they're also going to teach you how to fish. They're going to teach you how to hunt for lobster, and that's, guess what? We're going to cook that and serve that up to you that night. That's an experience. And that's why you're going to be able to charge more money for it. And that is the feature that's going to make Canada more competitive in the marketplace while everybody else is just selling a product. It's really the perception. People don't think that Canada has what they're looking for. Look at this. And I'll have to explain this graph for those of you in the back. Talk about local flavors, right? Culinary, the culinary experience. Very important to the customer, as you see in the blue here. And those who are a leader in local flavors, you know, let's pick one, you know, Thailand, Paris, you know, southern US with their Creole cooking. And here's where the perception is of Canada. People don't think that Canada has anything to offer them in terms of local cuisine. Now, is this true? No, it's not true. So it has to be a perception, right? We have to change their minds. We have to show them what there is to do in Canada. And the same with local lifestyles. Are our people boring? Do we not have culture? I don't think so. And the problem is that the reason we don't think we have culture, you want to know why we don't think we have culture? Because we're constantly comparing ourselves to everybody else. You got to be yourself, right? It's just like we grew up. Our parents always telling us, you got to be yourself. And it's not until you're yourself that you really realize how great you are, and when other people realize how great you are. And I think when we start selling and bringing out in our copy and our imagery those elements of our Canadian culture, that we'll start to see this perception start to rise. I am convinced, and I hope you are too, that Canada and Alberta and Chinook country have what the global community is looking for, have what international consumers are looking for. But we can't just tell them anymore. We have to show them. And why is this so important? And I'm going to show you, here's another proof point. When consumers start out, this is something called a path to purchase. Okay, it's a marketing tool. And what marketers will do is they'll measure how many customers they approached with their brand and how many customers they actually got to buy. So what this is telling you in the international marketplace, when all of us are doing our marketing together, for every 100 international consumers we get interested in Canada, only one buys. And you'll see what happens. These different phases, I'm not sure if you can see this here, but these different steps at the bottom are the different steps in a person's emotional decision making. So they start off by being aware of something, and then they dream about it, and then they consider it, and they start to make a movie in their head, right? So when it comes to being aware of Canada, hey, we're doing great, 100%, right? But when we start to get to getting them to dream about Canada, 83% are dreaming. Not bad, we've only lost 17% of our field. But when we start to get them to consider and start making that movie in their head, getting them to actually picture themselves having an experience here in Chinook country, we see that number drop to 20%. That is we've lost a lot of people for some reason. What we've got to do is we've got to show people that Canada has what they're looking for. And the Canadian Tourism Commission has come up with a program that is aiming to do just that. We're going to build one of the most awesome inventories of experiences that the global tourism community has ever seen. We already have destinations like Tourism New Zealand, Tourism Australia watching us very, very closely, because this is some pretty cutting edge stuff. This is a way that tourism businesses are going to be able to apply, and if they sell an experience, if they practice a high standard of marketing, and if they're selling what the international market is looking for, then they're going to find themselves in this collection. And one of the biggest benefits of this collection, if they successfully apply, is that they're going to grow tourism for all of Canada. It's like the mannequins in a window, right? Wow, that sweater looks really great. I think I'm going to go into the store. And when you go into the store, what do you end up doing? Do you buy the sweater? Well, I don't know, maybe you forgot about the sweater, but you ended up buying 2 pairs of jeans, a belt, and a pair of socks. Hey, as a retailer, you're pretty happy. That mannequin in the window did its job. It gave you an idea of, wow, this is the type of stuff that store sells. I'm going into that store. That's exactly what the Signature Experience Collection is going to do. It's going to give the world an idea of what's inside Canada. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the only experience they're going to buy. They're probably going to walk out with a couple pairs of jeans and a belt. I've got a little video that I'd like to show you right now, just to give you a sense of the excitement that there is around this program. I love this video. It's kind of like the Olympic videos that we used to see around the 2010 games, the ones that constantly made me cry. This one doesn't make me cry. I'm tired of crying over videos. So if we could roll that video now, please. It's a lofty goal, and one that we cannot hope to achieve without the front line of this industry, without the experiences themselves. So the third thing that you can do is, you're already doing it, and that's using EQ. We really do believe that EQ is the way that we will be able to align ourselves from Canada's brand to Travel Alberta's brand to Chinook Country Tourism's brand. EQ is the cement that's going to hold us all together. You need to speak the same language, and I wanted to talk, and I probably don't have time for that, so I'm going to jump right to this. Because I promised that this presentation was about photocopiers and spaceships. So we've already covered the photocopiers. So I'd like to talk to you about a very short story about spaceships and what we can learn from spaceships about speaking the same language. In the early 90s, NASA started a project to build something called the Mars Orbiter. They were going to send this spaceship, this satellite, out to Mars, and it was going to collect this incredible amount of data. So you can imagine NASA has some pretty big budgets, so billions were invested into launching this spacecraft that would orbit Mars. And 1999 came around, and they finally launched it and got it out there, and all of a sudden they didn't hear from it anymore. And then they started to concede that, I think this thing has crashed. So when they did their big review, do you want to know why it crashed? Because 2 different companies who were involved in building the Mars Orbiter, one was building it and had coded in instructions in Imperial. The other one had coded in instructions in metric. So when they coded their instructions in, the Mars Orbiter got confused and crashed. This is the importance of speaking the same language. When you use EQ, you have that ability to sit down at a table and say, who are you going for? I'm going for free spirits. Immediately, you're speaking a common understanding and have a really great profile of that customer. That common understanding is going to help you work better with Travel Alberta. That common understanding is going to help Travel Alberta and CTC work better together so that Canada ends up being the greatest beneficiary. I think I'd like to close in just saying a sincere thank you to all of you for being willing to take this journey with Travel Alberta and the Canadian Tourism Commission. One thing I did want to highlight is Travel Alberta. Thank you so much for your leadership and vision. Marty, you can take that message back to your team. It's because of Travel Alberta that you have access to EQ. They're the ones that bought the big license, and they're the ones that are making it available for free to their regions. So take advantage of this intelligence. And again, on behalf of all of us at the Canadian Tourism Commission, keep doing what you're doing. It's wonderful to see, and we'll continue to hold up Chinook Country as a prime example of what we mean by aligning with Canada's tourism brand. So thank you very much. Cheers.
Not so bad.
All right. Oh.
On behalf of Chinook Computer Association, Travel Alberta, and from all of you guys, I've got a little thing here for